I want the reason. Gillian and Diana's here. They will be in boxes and fathers.
You can give it to Marco when he comes to England.
Yeah. Yeah. This is him there. Maurizio Giglio. Nickname Cervo. Well, it was his code name, which means stag. And this is Peter Tompkins, 23 years old at the time, that was dropped into Rome because he spoke, he was in the OSS, an American, don't know whether I said that, 23 years old, he spoke fluent Italian, like an Italian, particularly a Roman Italian. And he was dropped in to organise the resistance, well, the resistance was there, but get them together to get messages, information about the what the Germans were doing, where they'd got the guns, where tanks were, everything that the Germans were doing. And tomorrow, on James's tour, he will take us to his last hiding place in Rome. When he was first introduced to this guy, Maurizio, he was, I had to write this down because I forget. He was actually a police officer in the fascist Republican Army. So when Peter Tompkins was introduced to him as one of the people that he got to work with, he was so nervous because of this uniform. But of course, Maurizio was working undercover, but within the fascist army.
Oh, wow.
And what happened? So they were passing all this information, and then it was being passed to Anzio. And this is where, perhaps I don't say it in front of Bob, because General Mark Clark didn't take the information seriously, and instead of, I think I said that last night, instead of going forward when they had the opportunity, he held back. So the Germans were able to get there to the beachhead. You know, so this guy was working, undercover. Anyway, in the end, the Germans captured Maurizio, tortured him, and chucked him in prison. And when the resistance, some of the resistance blew up this patrol, the Germans went around getting as many resistance people as they could. And it was 10 Italians to every one killed. And there were 32, I think.
32.
But so they didn't get enough, so they took from prison, and they took him as well. And he realised he's a brave man. Well, they're all brave. All of them. Yeah. It's taken 2 years. sometimes you see in the competition somebody's.
With the United Kingdom, etc. Now, I say as St. Paul's outside the walls is obviously named after the St. Paul, and apparently as he was coming south of Rome, he was killed in here, and they built this as a memorial to him. It's pretty old.
So this is where the tradition is St. Paul, the great disciple of Christ.
Yes.
He came to Rome and he was killed by tradition.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't know that.
Not far from here. There's. Did you pass through Ayor on your way up here?
Forget about it.
Okay, you didn't do it.
Just go on. Just don't
No,
stop.
because next to that there is the fountain, the monastery of the Three Fountains. Because when St. Paul's head was cut off, it apparently bounced 3 times and a fountain sprung out in each place. And that's where they have the beer brewery from the Trappist monks. So if anyone's tried the Trappist beer, you go to the Abbey of the Three Fountains, named after St. Paul's. The building is astonishing, but Michael is the person better placed to talk about that. What I've been doing is kind of researching the World War II side of every building in Rome, because not many people know that history. There's a history that a lot of the Italians would rather not know much about.
Yeah.
And also at the end of the war, the Allies were quite happy to forget about it as well and say, just get on with being part of the West and forget the Cold War's happening. It's more important. So the Italian campaign got forgotten a lot. But I've read things like the history of the resistance in Rome, and for example here, because this is Vatican property, it's not part of Italy. So when we go through there, we are leaving Italy, okay? What happened in the unification process of Italy was the kings of Savoy gradually put together Italy from all these little states like the Duchy of Tuscany, the Republic of Venice, Republic of Genoa, Kingdom of Sicily, to create one united Italy, with the exception of one place, which was Rome, where the Pope was guarded by French troops. So the Italians couldn't take Rome. It's only when Prussia invaded France that the French troops were withdrawn and France lost, at which point the Italian army took Rome, and the Pope refused to speak to the Italians. He excommunicated the entire Savoy royal family and never left the Vatican for 60 years. He was the prisoner of the Vatican for 60 years is what he called himself. He never went on the balcony, he never did an audience. Only when opportunist Mussolini turns up in 1929 and wants to have the church on his side do they do the Lateran Accords, named after St. John Lateran. And they create the Vatican City State as we know it, with St. Peter's, and all these extraterritorial enclaves throughout Rome. So this is not Italy, St. John Lateran is not Italy, St. Mary Maggiore is not Italy. You walk in there, you're in a different country. Where that matters during the Nazi occupation of Rome is that the Germans respected the Vatican boundaries, and so they would not go into places that the Vatican had. So you had about 150 different monasteries and abbeys hiding escaped prisoners of war, Jews, and Italian military draft dodgers were all on these Vatican properties. Down at Castle Gandolfo, there were about 3,000 people hiding in the gardens there, because the Germans would respect the boundaries. So here they were hiding Jews and Italian military officers. One problem though, the fascists came back into Rome when the Nazis took the city, and the Pope refused to recognize Mussolini's government in the north. He said, who the hell are you, you know? The king is the head of state. So the Pope refused to recognize the fascist government of Mussolini in the north of Italy, so the fascists didn't care about the boundaries. So they raided this place. Pietro Koch, who was the band who picked up Maurizio Giglio at the torture chambers.
Oh, right.
His group raided this place, and they took out the Jews and the Italian military officers they could find. This was in February 44, and the Pope complained bitterly.
Supposed to go in? Yeah, he's going now.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
But they
keep
couldn't complain
talking.
to Mussolini because they didn't recognize his government. They had to complain to the Germans. Here is Colonel of
12 small monasteries, and then from there is not the true peace, it's a superficial one. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Give us our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And I would like to